my 6-month review on this Wacker SM100 mini skid steer. And just because the machine is kind of new, like Wacker hasn't been building these things for a long time, there's just not a whole lot of straightforward information out there on the internet. And that's something you don't hear very often, straightforward and information in reference to the internet. What I'm saying is that a lot of the machines that have been around a lot longer, you know, there's like a ton of videos about them and discussion in the forums and stuff, whereas this SM100, it's just a little newer. Having this machine, it's actually a little bit hard to find out like basic information about it. Like the oil change, for instance, all happens underneath these little magic doors. So as for the engine, this thing, it's a 3-cylinder Yanmar diesel, like 24 horse, something like that. And in that sense, it's similar in terms of horsepower to my little Doodlebug machine. No, I have not gotten rid of the Doodlebug machine. But just because it's a diesel and the whole configuration of the machine, it just lifts a lot more. Like that dude, if you got everything set up just right, it's like 500 pounds-ish. I think not counting the weight of the bucket. This one's more like 1,000. But what I realized is that when you've got 1,000 pounds up in the air, trying to get it in your trailer, it's a little funky. Like it gets a little wobble to it. If I was to say there's like one downside with this machine so far, it's that it's just a little bit tippy. And I'm not the first person saying that. Just look around the forums and stuff. People will talk about the SM100 and they will say it's a little bit tippy. They do sell a weight kit for like 1,300 bucks. I got these weights, these guys, and then there's another weight that goes right here that I put in the back. It was like a little bit unorthodox, but that's just what I did. And that weight kit, you know, puts a little bit more weight down below just to kind of avoid the tipping, but it's narrow. They came out with the next one. It's like the SM, I forget, 200, 150, something like that. Wider tracks, it's got like 16-inch tracks. Looking back on it, I sort of maybe should have got that wider machine. I just couldn't find them around here. But because it's narrow, because your weight is kind of high. Like on this machine, you are stepping up to get on that platform. I hate to keep comparing it to the Doodlebug machine, but check this out, man. This platform is like very close to ground level. Kind of forgot to fix that. So with the Wacker, because you're up, because the whole machine's got some weight up in the air, and because it's really fast, it's got some serious speed to it. If you're turning, you're on a little bit of an incline, you hit a bump or something, it will get goosey on you real quick and make you feel kind of tippy. Kind of forgot to pull the plug. But I'm kind of someone who's always finding little problems with things. Aside from the fact that it's tippy, and it cost me an arm and a leg compared to the little Doodlebug, somewhere in the area of like 40 to 50 grand. The machine has been awesome. It's just got the power, like the lifting power, and the grapple. Like I got the grapple on there, I almost never take it off. But the grapple is just a brush and log muncher. I've also got a bucket. You can see it's just kind of gathering dust back here. Good sized bucket. I'll show you some footage of me using it. Like I have run with the bucket. It holds a lot of stuff. So the machine is just like completely made to get some work done. It did take me a little adapting to the controls just because my Doodlebug machine, each stick, kind of like a 0-turn mower, is set up for each track. So like this is left track, this is right track. This one, not at all. This is movement. Like this is your movement joystick and this is your bucket control. It's a better way to set it up, but you know, for me, it just took a little adapting too. It tries to be kind of digital and it does have some of that going on with the display, but it feels more like an analog machine. You know, joysticks, throttle right here, just crank it up. This is your control on your grapple or whatever you've got hooked to the hydro up front. Just because I believe every piece of equipment or vehicle needs some unnecessary lights added to it, I did put a couple of pod lights up front. Like once in the last 6 months, I kind of needed that. I probably could have got by with a flashlight. Other than the lights, I think the only thing I did to kind of change this up is just put a shackle up front so I can lock on chains or ropes for dragging stuff. I did throw that complete rip-off weight set on there. If you got one of these, I would recommend just getting some Olympic weights, drilling them, and putting a 45-pounder back here. You'll get more weight, and it'll be way cheaper. As for the weight on the bottom, yes, it does create some ballast down below. As for on the job, I feel like it's pretty comparable to the other minis out there. The Dingo, the Kubota, the Vermeer, they might be a step up with a few more options, but I feel like at the price, it's a pretty decent machine. If anyone's interested in interpreting runes, it's got this hilarious maintenance schedule kind of circular diagram thing with hours going out. So like, 10, 50, 250, and then little obscure icons all the way around with Roman numerals, insisting that you do these different things at the different hours as time moves outward in this concentric square thing. But the dang machine is, I think, a moneymaker. If you've got the ability to bring it to a job site and haul it back, you need to be moving heavy stuff or scraping or raking. Like I've got a rake for the front, just clean ground quickly and effectively in a big way in a short amount of time. Though it took me some help of people commenting on the channel to realize that it does have a float function. This is the bucket control. If you push it all the way forward, you can go into float mode, so you can float the bucket or float the rake or float the grapple or whatever you want to float, just so that it kind of hugs the contours of the ground while you're scraping or pushing stuff. Is it just me, or do these hose drains always seem to have just a little bit of oil left in them? As for regular maintenance on this bad boy, pretty much like most pieces of equipment, greasing stuff up front, greasing tracks. The track tensioning system is actually grease based. It's like a little bit wacky. I haven't had to deal with it yet, but if your tracks get loose, you throw a track, you want to tighten it up, you actually just increase the pressure on the grease system, and that like spreads the tracks apart and tensions them. Same thing if they're too tight, you loosen it up by letting grease out. So instead of like a mechanical, bolt and crank system, it's got this grease dealio. And not too many grease ports, like maybe 4 or 5 on each side, just to keep things rolling. Air filter, hydraulic fluid. It does have a water separator just because the diesel. And this is just my added wiring harness for those completely unnecessary lights. And behold, the hidden oil filter. And again, probably just because it's kind of newer, even filters are kind of hard to find. Like Wacker makes some kind of proprietary filter. I went with the K&N just because that's what I used on the Moto, and it seems to work pretty well. And then there's like one other filter brand out there, something kind of off-market sounding that I didn't want to buy. So if you got one of these machines and you found a better source for filters, let me know. All right, we're gonna have to call that done. Like there's just 1 or 2 more drips, but I think that's it. So like I said, I've only had it like 6 months or so. So it's not like the ultimate, lifetime review on the machine. It's definitely a little bit dicey buying a piece of equipment from a company. Now Wacker Neuson's been around for a long time, but this machine, they've only been producing it for a couple of years. So it's not like it's been out for 20 years and they really got all the kinks out of it. So that's like mildly dicey, but so far it's working pretty good. If you run one of these mini skids, these Wacker SM100s, I'd love to hear what you think about it. Maybe you got some little tips and tricks. Otherwise, thanks for checking it out.